He is a former Chief Operating Officer for Protein Bar and has been the Director of Operations, Training, and Human Resources for other category-leading brands. Mike is a renowned hospitality executive with over 20 years' experience in the hotel, restaurant, and retail industries. As you will see for yourself, Mike is a skilled improv actor who has applied his improv techniques to help teams collaborate and work better together. He has performed and trained at famous places like Second City, Upright Citizens Brigade, and Improv Olympics. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mike Ganino.
Hi.
By the way, he's only 5'5", but his hair makes him 6'2".
I was wondering if I was going to fit in here underneath of here. Maybe I'll knock something down. So we're gonna be innovating today too. So I'm going to be using my phone as the remote clicker. So innovation abounds everywhere, from dumplings to iPhones. We're innovating. So I got here on Saturday and started thinking about innovation. Started thinking, how does innovation fit in with Hawaii and what's going on here with the food scene, with the restaurant scene, with the grocery scene, with the hotel scene, because it all seems so steep in tradition. So as I landed, the first thing I thought of course, was, let's see if I can, there we go. Innovation sometimes gives you a little kink. Where should I eat? That's the very first thing I landed in Honolulu. I immediately went to Google and I said, where should I eat? Google. And Google told me, see, this is why I warned you. Let's try. Oh, cool. I went to Google, I went everywhere. There we go. I was wondering about innovation, so I looked up how to succeed as a restaurant. I wanted to bring new ideas. What I found is that if you look that up, you got 42 million searches. So if you're thinking out there, what do I do, where do I go, where do I find answers, Google might not be the best place to start your search. If you're into binge watching, anyone into Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad, anybody? A couple of you. Game of Thrones, I know what happens. Everybody dies. I think that's just every episode. There's somebody else dies. So if you're into that and you'd rather watch things, you could go to YouTube, and there's something like 500,000 videos for you to watch on how to innovate in the food service space. That's a really long binge watching session. I think maybe all the Game of Thrones combined would still get you, you'd be done with that quicker than this. And it's so interesting when we think about innovation, when we think about how to take this idea and come up with the next one. We're all looking for the 5 habits or the 7 steps or the 9 hacks or the 11 essentials or the 13 top tips. We think that someone else out there has an answer for us. And it's natural. I mean, trust me, he made the hair joke when I got up here, but if there was a way to get my hair to do this in 3 easy steps every day, it would save me a lot of time in the mornings. I could have got here a lot sooner. So it's only natural that we do this. I'm working on a book right now that'll come out in April of next year. It takes a long time, books. That's called Company Culture for Dummies, in that For Dummies series. And the reality of those books is they're not really for dummies at all. They're for college-educated folks who want simple solutions they can put into place. I love the idea of learning from history. And so as I've been researching for the book and thinking of where do we get ideas, where do ideas come from, how do we change, how do we innovate, I went back to the history books and I said, well, what can I learn here? And one of the things I found so interesting that applies to not only innovation but also culture and products and opening new places is this idea that came from World War II and right before that. In Melanesia, there are these islands all around. And for a long time, visitors from Portugal and Spain and Europe had been visiting the islands. And for the most part, the folks on the island thought, okay, this is interesting, they'll come and they'll leave. But during World War II, both Japan and the Allied forces decided to put bases there. Japan thinking they could keep the forces from getting closer to the islands, and the Allied forces thinking it was a good place to get closer. What they didn't think about is all the people that were there already. So what happened is these huge ships came and dropped off cargo. These airplanes would fly in and drop things from boxes. And all along, the people on the island thought that's actually meant for us. We've been doing, praying to the gods. We've been having our ceremonies for so long, and those boxes are really ours, and they're somehow taking them. And so they kept watching and watching and watching, and eventually both Japan and the Allied forces left when the war was over. And so the folks on the island thought, oh yes, now it's for us. Everything on there is going to be ours. Everything that arrives in these ships, everything that falls from the sky is now for us. There was like drinks that people drank and it made them get a little goofy. There was clothes to protect you from the sun, food that you didn't have to go hunting for. And so they kept waiting, and none of the food came. None of the boxes came, none of the ships came. And today in 2017, of course, we're like, yeah, that's not how it works. But at the time, they thought differently. They thought, well, if we just do what everyone else was doing, then we'll be able to have what they have. They thought that the reason these shipments were coming was because the soldiers were pleasing the gods. So they thought about it and they said, well, what do we need to do? How do we get everybody happy with us so that we'll get shipments? So they built runways. They took the pieces of clothes that were left over and built uniforms out of them. And they built airplanes like this one. This is an actual image from the cargo cults, if you want to do a little research. And they started doing these rituals. They started doing what they had seen the soldiers do, thinking that if we do what they do, we can have what they have. I use an example to also talk about how a lot of companies want to copy places. There's, a burger place in the mainland called Shake Shack that's really famous. And everybody thinks if we just copy Shake Shack, we'll have what they have. In the tech world where I spend some time, people think if we do what Airbnb does or we do what Lyft does, I used to say Uber, but not anymore. And I used to say Google, but that one's also not safe this week. I don't know if you're watching the news. We think if we do what they do, if we have their values, if we innovate the way they do, if we follow their procedures, we're going to have the same success as them. And I think the worry happens in the same way when we think of innovation. When you go next door today and you start to see some of the products coming to market, some of the ways you can use them, I challenge you to not just think about copy and pasting. I challenge you not to think of Control-Alt-Delete in a technical term. Chef Wong was talking about tradition, talking about taking dumplings and doing something new with them, and the approach to that. And I think that's what we need to think about when we think of innovation. Not of throwing away what's always worked, not about copying and pasting what someone else did, hoping that we're going to have what they have, but it's really about copy, adapt, and paste. It's about watching what's going on. It's about listening and what people want, figuring out how that works best for you, and then pasting that onto your operation, thinking, how do I put this in place? And so today I want to share some of the ideas of things I think that you might want to watch for. But before we get to that, why does innovation matter? How many of you on your business card have chef or cook or something like that in the room? How many have buyer? How many are a buyer for a program? Or maybe a manager of some sort? Did you guys come to the right room? Like, we were here for drinks. That was last night. That's tonight, I heard. Maybe you have owner. Anyone have owner? A couple of, there we go, some proud owners in the room. I think all of you need to change, and whatever else is on your business card, I think you need to think differently. No matter where you fit in the organization, I think the challenge is that you need to call yourself a disruptor. You need to call yourself an innovator, an entrepreneur. You need to figure out how you can be somebody that brings new ideas. How you could be somebody that can take something that's working and say, how do we apply this to our business? Because what happens without innovation? The simple answer is nothing. You just keep doing what you've always done. The issue is that no evolution occurs, that people think, oh, this is not the place for me. There's something new. Somebody's doing a better Instagram story this week. Somebody has a new dumpling that's even better. And so we've got to constantly be thinking about that. When you think about the tech space, we were joking this morning about what kind of phones people use. This company didn't evolve. They had a great technology for businesses, but they didn't think about consumers. And then the iPhone came along. It was a missed opportunity. Blockbuster, if you remember them, they had several opportunities to buy Netflix, by the way, and they turned it down over and over and over. I think there were 3 chances they had to buy Netflix, and they said, nobody wants to have stuff mailed to their house. Now I order everything on Amazon, by the way. They also thought, who's going to be watching TV or watching shows on a computer? Like, nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to watch this from their screen. And now we can stream the latest Game of Thrones right to the phone. It causes us to lose bottom line revenue. Whatever business you're in, it's going to cause you to lose that if people don't think you have the things that they want. your businesses are going to have for sale signs or for lease signs if we don't think about that. So what does it mean to be innovative? How do you do that? We think that she's cute, right? We think that innovation is about some magic people. We think that innovation is about having some futuristic restaurant or hotel. We think it's about tables where we can order. Or something like this. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I'm a little scared of heights, so I don't want to be dining in that restaurant. And so often, we think that innovation is not for us. We think it's for people with magic, technology, and other people. And we lose out on the opportunity to grow, the opportunity to innovate, the opportunity that is out there for us. So I want you to think about this as you spend the rest of your time here with me, as you go across the street later and meet with some of the people who are here to share with you some of the ideas they're bringing to the market. What's the biggest result you're looking for? What are the things in your business, whether you run your own business, whether you're a huge team, whether you're the owner or a part of it? What are some of the things you hope to happen on the second half of 2017? Because I promise you that innovating in some way is the way to get there. Innovating and thinking of the next thing is the way to get there. So how do you start? I like to say it's disrupt yourself. I'm Italian, so sometimes when we drive down the street, we say disrupt yourself when somebody swerves in front of us. So what happens often is we take what worked before. We take the product we did, we take the offering we had, we take the locations we had, and we try to repeat them on this loop over and over and over. And then one day we wake up and we blame millennials because our business isn't working anymore. It's like the easiest scapegoat, right? Just blame the millennials. The issue is us. We didn't move forward. Time changes and we need to move with it. And I think there's a way to do it that allows you to still be steeped in the traditions and in the things that are important to you. So the first step is we have to get really good at listening. We have to hear what's going on in the marketplace. I was talking with someone last night, a business owner here in Hawaii, who was saying, I never look at Yelp reviews. I would suggest maybe don't lose sleep over Yelp reviews, but it's an important place to go get feedback. My tip for you, by the way, is to pay attention to the 3s and 4s on a 5 scale because they thought you were almost perfect. Maybe the 1s and 2 are not your customer, so listen to your 3s and 4s. What could you do to be a little bit better? What could you do to be their favorite place? At the beginning, he introduced me and said that I had done improv theater for a long time at Second City and things like that. Tina Fey, by the way, was my teacher once. It's kind of cool. I don't know. So we've all learned recently, she's had a book, and Amy Poehler's had a book, and everyone has a book about the idea of saying yes. In improvisation, who's seen an improv show? Anyone? Ever seen a show? Yeah, a few of you. Or Whose Line Is It Anyway on TV? Whether the new version or the old version, it's been going on forever. The basic idea in improvisation is that there's nothing on stage with us. We have no scripts, we have no props, we have no idea what we're going to do or who we're going to be. And through a certain set of rules, we learn how to play off of each other. A lot of times people think that the idea there is to say, you're just really good at winging it. But they're on a major television show, they're probably not winging it. There's probably something there. What's not there is a script. They're not cheating you, they're not being fake, they're not being phony. But there's a rule set that we work with to be able to create something out of nothing. And I think innovation is kind of like that, creating something out of nothing, or even better, something out of everything. And so the first rule of that is saying yes. When we're doing a scene together, when I work with companies to help them on innovation or marketing or company culture, the place we start is saying yes. We have to accept that what is going on is actually going on. We can keep crying about, millennials, or the group before that was the Gen X's, the group before that, the boomers. I promise you this has been going on since the beginning of time. There's a really awesome quote from Socrates, old philosopher, that says, the youth of today are disrespectful. They're not interested in traditions. They don't care about this. They don't respect their elders. That was in a long time ago. I don't know the year. But you could apply that to almost any generation. I've been really in love with a lot of the buildings here in Hawaii that are also steeped in tradition. I imagine at the time that some of them were built in the 1950s and 60s, there was a group of people that said, oh, these motorcycle people, these guys in their leather jackets and their slicked back hair, they're rebels, they're bad, how do we need to adjust? But the reality is it's all going to change without us. So we have to figure out how to say yes to it. After we say yes to the fact that things are changing, the goal is to say yes and contribute to it. That's where innovation comes from. It comes from you hearing what's going on in the marketplace and finding solutions that work. It comes from saying people really love dumplings. What kind of flavors are they looking for? How can we steep something in tradition while also bringing it forward, while also building an audience? And then the idea is to test things, much like I tested this at the beginning, and we got it to work finally. Because if you can test things, you can fail quickly. And that's the goal. When you think about maybe bringing some of these products in, maybe working with some of these folks, the goal is to think about how can you try something out and then fail quickly. One of the great things Chef Wong said is that the dumplings are different every day. Every single day it's different. Well, guess what? If it ain't good, it's only going to last till tomorrow. Then they don't have to bring it back again. Or if it's really good and there was like somebody loved the ginger flavor in something, well, then let's play up ginger and see what happens. See how the ability to say yes and then to test and fail quickly helps you be innovative? And we tried to go to Cocoa Head this week. It's a very busy place. I don't know if you've tried to go. It's a very busy spot. Kudos to her. So that's how you start. So now I wanted to share with you, I was here in Hawaii, and so I think the theme of the C was in my brain. And so I came up with the 7 C's of innovation for you. And I wanted to share with you some ideas. By the way, if you want this slide deck and a little guide that I put together for you, you can text me at 444-999 and just put talk, and then we'll exchange emails, and I'll hook you up with a guide to innovation. I'll send you the slides, give you everything you need here. So you don't have to worry about like writing it down or taking a ton of photos. I'll give it all to you. And that'll be up there for a little bit, so you'll see it. So the 7 C's of innovation. If I've convinced you that you need to disrupt yourself, where do you get started? What is it that's going on? One of the things I really love is that I get to travel and see so many places. And what I love is kind of collecting those experiences so I can share them with everybody else. And here are the big things we're seeing right now in the food space. Care is a big deal. You can ask anyone at Chipotle. Chipotle had a bunch of public health scares, and it's really, really hurting them. And they were the giant. I remember back when I was a director of training at Potbelly, and we were growing, and it was always like, how could we be as cool as Chipotle? I saw recently, I think in May, Chipotle put in the paperwork to open here in Hawaii. People want to make sure that they're safe. That's the number one thing. If you can't get that right, if you can't innovate there, if you can't think about food safety in your locations, then it really doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Sustainability really matters. People care about that. 41% of consumers say it's important that the restaurants they dine in, the retail spaces they shop in, the hotels they visit, the grocery stores they go to, that they're socially and environmentally responsible. And is mattering more and more and more. 47% of diners say that the source of proteins in the restaurants, in the food service locations they eat in, matters to them. When you go across the street today, you're going to meet a bunch of folks who are doing some interesting things with the sources of the proteins. I heard about wild salmon last night. I want to try that. 57% of diners say sustainability creates value. When they know that what you're doing in your locations is actually sustainable, it makes them feel like they're getting more out of their dollar. It's not just about the food, it's about where the food came from. Culture is the 2nd C. I'm writing a book, Company Culture for Dummies, that'll be out in April because I think culture impacts everything. It impacts innovation, it impacts marketing, it impacts your ability to grow. Being a good place to work matters. 59% of people are saying that a company's ethics and practices are important factors about where they should buy, where they should spend their money and their time, even down to what airlines they choose often. So if you're thinking about how to do it, it's really about these 5 things, having a super clear vision. And a lot of this, by the way, will be in the book, so maybe I'll come back in April and I can sign books for you too. Maybe I'll learn how to make dumplings. I could take a dumpling class. Vision is about having an ideal, about really knowing where you are, knowing your story and being able to share it. They want to know that you have values and norms that are in line with them. The news of Google this week was about an engineer who said he didn't think women were cut out to be coding and to be engineers. People don't like that. People don't like those messages because we're all starting to feel like we need to do this together. The people you have on your team, having the right individuals in your management positions, in your leadership positions, in your frontline positions, matters to people when they choose where to shop. Having a narrative. One of the things I think is really great about so many of the businesses here in Hawaii is you have this amazing chance to have a narrative. How did you start? Where did you come from? I went to Ono's yesterday, which I know is going to be closing at some point here. But there's such a narrative there to be able to share about their history and what they've been doing here in Hawaii. And place, building a place that reflects the things that people want where they go to shop, where they go to spend time, the hotels they're in. The third C is convenience. And this is a big one right now. Everyone wants everything the way they want it. Online ordering is growing. 35% of adults are saying that if there's technology, they'll choose one place over the other. If I can make a reservation, I'm much more likely to show up. We have smartphones, and the only part we don't like is the phone part. We like the smart part most of all, but my phone rings and I'm like, don't answer. I don't want to speak. Consumers are using smartphones to order. 57% increase in the next 5 years they expect will happen in mobile orders, in mobile ordering. And even here, I got to the hotel, I went on Yelp, and I clicked on online ordering. Who could bring me the food right to my room? I don't have to leave. It was a long flight from LA, and there was a whole bunch of choices. I didn't look further. I picked somewhere on there. Online ordering is big. Grubhub just spent $220 million to buy Eat24 from Yelp. They're not doing this because they think it's cute. They're doing this because they know it's the future. By 2020, 70% of all restaurant meals, and really think any food that's not being bought in a grocery store, is going to be consumed outside of the restaurant. So what does that tell you? It tells you that people want the convenience to take the food and go wherever they want with it. They want to take it maybe to the beach. They want to take it to work. They're taking it somewhere else besides that restaurant. Taco Bell and Lyft. Lyft is a shared car service. Taco Bell and Lyft have a deal where you can get into the Lyft, and on the way they'll stop at a Taco Bell to feed you. I saw some Taco Bells in Hawaii. Domino's gone big here. 25 consecutive quarters of same-store growth, largely due to technology. They've realized that at one point people came into a shop, they ordered, and then they would wait for their food and go. They just said, how do we copy that? They didn't create anything new. Lyft, Uber, they didn't create something new. They said, they didn't create cabs, those existed. But they said, what is so annoying about all of it? Well, it's the waiting, it's the not knowing if they're showing up, it's the standing outside in the snow or in the heat. And the same thing here. People want food. They're using their phones, make it easy for them. Grab and go, 48% of people say they prefer eating meals on the go, and 44% say that convenience is more important to them than cuisine. I can think of a lot of places that maybe aren't so good that I've eaten at simply because they'll bring it to me. And this matters. This matters here in Hawaii. People are using this. There's Domino's here. And if you're not thinking of this, if you're not thinking of how to bring this to your business, then you're going to lose that battle. Connection matters to people. Social media is huge. It's what everyone's using. Most food providers are spending more money on their social media than they are on traditional advertising. And we get freaked out by it. We think there's so many options, there's so many things to do. But it's really about less campaigning. It's about giving consumers a place to chat about what they like. It's about discussing brands that they support and the places that upset them too. All of those things are going on online whether we show up or not. I always think it's funny when somebody says like, oh, I don't go there, I don't listen to it. Because it's really just like a customer calling you and saying, hey, here's what's going on for me, and then you're ignoring them. I don't know that we have that choice anymore. People want to be heard. They want a community that they can join in on. Your brand on social. Check out this. It used to be you would type in your business name and you would show up first. You were the only one. But now you're showing up on Google on the side with a whole bunch of information. You're showing up on Yelp, on OpenTable, on TripAdvisor, on Facebook. They're probably not going to your website first. They're going to go see what somebody said on TripAdvisor. They're going to go read what their friends did on Facebook. When I landed in Honolulu, I opened up Facebook to see what's going on. Has there been any emergencies? Is the White House still there? And this is what it showed me immediately. I didn't check into Honolulu. My phone knew I was in Honolulu, and Facebook then knew I was in Honolulu. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't want them to find me. This is what it told me. Hey, welcome to Honolulu. These are your 84 friends who've been to Honolulu. By the way, this is where your friends have checked in at. By the way, here's some places we think you should explore. Nightlife, restaurants, cafes, attractions. Here's the places the locals like. I don't know if that's true, so don't judge me. It's not my opinions. That's showing up for you regardless of the business you're in. Are you there? Are you listening? We have an incredible opportunity to leverage that power of community. The storytellers among us shall inherit the earth. We've all been hearing about video, and storytelling is everywhere. If you think about this, and you all have this, if you want to message me, you'll get this, so you can go back and follow these rules. You've got to be thinking TLDR. In millennial speak, that means too long, didn't read. We want short messages. We want easy to see things. We want it to be entertaining and provocative. We want a striking photo. We want it to be interesting. So if you're thinking about what do I need to do on social media, how do I innovate, how do I connect with people in this world gone social, it's simple. My recipe for you is this. I'm a restaurant guy from a long time, so I think in recipes. Post 2 videos a week. Post 3 new images on there for folks. Connect with 5 customers or fans. When they say something, write them back. I was really surprised. I was doing Instagram stories from a bunch of restaurants and locations we went to. Iolani Palace wrote me back. Very cool. I like to think I heard from a king and queen. Pig and the Lady wrote me back when I did, and then every other place I've been didn't even notice. And I've probably checked into 2 or 3 places, done videos for them, got it posted in the Honolulu video feed where a ton of people can see it, and they didn't even say anything. So we've got to be paying attention to this. We've got to talk to those fans. On Instagram, people want to tell stories. Double down on the fact that you're interesting. When people are coming from the mainland to visit you, they want to feel like they're having a Hawaiian experience. You've got that beat by, I think, maybe every other state. Tell your story. Focus on the experience, on having a point of view, on being consistent, on being more human and less media. If you're on Instagram, does your image rock? Are you riding the trends? Is there a food festival that you should be paying attention to? And you can use the hashtag to get people to pay attention to you. Are you paying attention to what people are looking for there? Does your brand have a hashtag? Are people talking about you? What's the story? What's the emotion that you're getting across? Here's your weekly recipe. You're going to post an image every single day. One image of something. Food, of your team. I have a whole guide of 52 weeks, too. I'll give it to you. If you message me, I'll send it to you. 52 weeks of what you should post. You don't have to think about it. Sometimes we get so bogged down of like, what should I share? What is it that people want to hear? Share to your stories daily. Stories on Instagram are short little videos. So you could do a little video, here's something that's going on. It's 15 seconds. Share what's happening in your location. Share what new food you found. Share your adventure next door today. People love watching the behind the scenes. There's an entire industry of reality TV based on that. Become your own reality star. Talk with your fans there. Video levels the playing fields. It used to be that if you were going to do video, you had to spend a lot of money to make it look perfect. These days, we are so craving authenticity. We want someone to just connect with us and be like, hey, human, I'm a human. We don't want glossy. We see something like over 5,000 images, marketing messages a day. In like 1970, it was 300. We get really good at tuning out BS. We get really good at tuning out things that seem inauthentic. This is how you can win. You don't have to be a big brand to do that. You can connect with people in an authentic way because that's what they want. Video is about moving us. It's about being incredibly authentic, about sharing things that people care about adding it up, adding your story up. Do it 3 times a week and call me. I'm like the doctor. Take an apple and call me. Here's your recipe for doing great video. And you'll have all this too, so we'll share this all with you. Things you could share. You could share culinary. You could show pictures of your culture, of your team working. We love that. We could share pictures of our customers. We could share pictures of a baby. Everyone loves a baby. Share pictures of babies and dogs. By the way, there's some dogs for you. Share the celebrations going on, the context, your environment, what's going on in your space, and do it consistently so that people can connect with you. The other C that matters to us is context. And this is where I think Hawaii has a huge chance to win. People really think that local matters. 57% of consumers and 64% of millennials, of which there are 75 million of, a lot of whom want to come visit Hawaii, they think visiting local independent places is important. We're Airbnb-ing so we can have the most local experience ever by like staying in your extra bedroom. We want to go to pop-ups and food trucks and food carts because it feels the most authentic, the most real. We'll stand in these long lines to try one place over another because we think it feels more authentic and local. So how can you take advantage of that? How can you tell that story? 68% of millennials say that they prefer the local sourcing of ingredients. And we heard that up here on stage. Chef Wong was talking about where she gets some of the ingredients from, the farmers markets she visits, where the eggplant came from, where the meat's coming from, and how she shares that because it matters to people. They're also willing to pay more money for those things. Riding the local wave matters. Dining is about the experience. The hotels that we stay in, the grocery stores we shop in, we want them to feel like a place. We want to feel like I'm here. I can't just go to this other place and it be the same. I want to connect with the place I'm in. 81% of people state that enjoying and exploring new cultures through food is important. And again, I think Hawaii has a chance to double down on that. You have a chance to do that in ways that people can't. This week I've tried poi pancakes. I had purple pancakes. I've tried poke, and I didn't know there was like a poke war going on with the mainland, but I learned it since I've been here, and I'm never going back. I just want to eat the Hawaiian poke only. It's such a different thing going on. People want customization. That's what you should be thinking about with innovation. We want a little of this. We want a little of that. 62% of consumers want to choose their sides. So if you're thinking about food, we want to choose our sides. If we're thinking about a hotel, I want to choose all my experiences, all my options. What can I add to it? Airlines are coming on to this. I saw a note today that Delta, United, and American have decided they're really going to let us customize by being every seat basically comes with no seat. You just sit on the floor. And if you want a seat, you can customize it. They heard this lesson. We've been taking it our way for a long time. 58% of people want to customize their burger toppings. 50% of people say they want to customize their chicken prep. So whatever business you're in, this applies. If you're sitting here and you're thinking like, well, I don't have chicken or burgers or whatever you might have, this applies whether you're running a grocery store, whether you're running a tour operator. This is where people are going. This is the trend in innovation, not just food. And speaking of food, that's what we're here for. Here's the 6 things I see going on in the world. Here's what I'm learning about. And I encourage you to think about this when you go next door today to see where can you do this, because this is what's happening in the world. Infused flavors. 50% year-over-year growth in menu appearances. So people want beverages that are infused. Cucumber infused, cumin infused. I had something that was cumin and cucumber infused. It didn't have tequila. It sounds like it should. Beverages are a big topic right now, and I would say that any operator can do that. Whether you're a retail, restaurant, grocery, you could be thinking about this, how to do that. Coffee is the other big thing. I don't know if you've been, even here in Hawaii, I have seen cold brew everywhere. Espresso-based drinks on menu had a jump in 6% since last year. They're showing up on more and more menus. If you go to the grocery stores now, where the energy drinks used to be, now you're just seeing 700 different varieties of cold brew coffee. There's an opportunity there in Hawaii. Not only can you take the idea of culinary, you could take the context thing and be like, not only is it cold brew, but it's Kona. You have the chance to do both. Snacks are a big thing. People want to try new flavors, but they don't want to invest too much. They want to make sure, let's see if I like it. They're exploring more exotic flavors, and doing that with snacks is an easy way to get it done. Protein is super important. I learned a lot about some of the folks that are next door for you to meet. 67% of an increase in appearance of non-traditional red meat. Pork butt, Kahlua pork, by the way. That's pork butt in a lot of places. Spicy sausage. I was surprised at Ono yesterday. Even on the menu there, they had Portuguese sausage. And you would think well, how is that traditional Hawaiian food? But it's all steeped in history. And so these things that are happening in Hawaii that have been tradition are what people are looking for. Brunch. Chef Wong has an entire restaurant that does brunch. We want breakfast all day long. We want brunch items all day long. So how can you do that? Healthy is a big deal. 67% of people are looking for real food. Things like Greek yogurt and kale and blueberries. 33% growth in adherence of superfoods we're seeing. So what superfoods are on your menu? Where can you add it? How can you infuse a drink with some superfoods? How can you make something with blueberries? Big ingredients we're seeing are coconut milk, salmon, exotic fruits, green teas, grains, fermented veggies. I've seen all of these things on Hawaiian menus this week, by the way. All of those are things you could take advantage of and offer. We have sriracha everywhere. on our keychains even. Sriracha has been crazy. And what's the lesson there? The lesson is not that it's just sriracha, but that it's all sauces. We want to explore. It's another way to customize. So you could kind of double dip. You could take the idea that people want to spice it up in culinary and then let them customize it by giving them a bunch of sauces to choose from. We're looking at a lot of spice trends. Cardamom and turmeric are showing up in places. Cumin is showing up. That is a golden latte, by the way. It's a latte made from turmeric from India. That's showing up on a ton of menus everywhere. All of these are also things I've seen in Hawaii this week since I've been here. So I want you to think about this. Today, as you're here, what is your number one goal? Why did you show up? Why did you take the time to come here? Why did you take the time out of your day running your operation, being with your team, meeting with your customers to come and spend the day here? What is it that you came for? What are you looking to innovate? Where do you have an opportunity to say yes and to listen? See, someone wants to listen now. If it's for me, tell them I'm busy. No, you're perfect. We cue that up. I want you to think about this. Take your phone out. I want you to do this. I know what happens. You come to these events, you go back, you're really inspired, you have like initiative-itis. The people in your office or in your locations are like, oh yeah, he went to another conference, didn't he? I want you to take your phone out. I want you to pick someone, a spouse, a friend, a business partner, somebody. I can see you, by the way, so I can see when you're not doing it. And I want you to text them and say something that's inspired you, something that Chef Wong talked about, something in the car ride over here, something that you think is worth exploring together. Text that person and tell them to remind them to tell you, you know what I mean, remind you to tell them about the thing that you're interested in. Whether it's one of the ingredients I've talked about, one of the ideas for social media, something that Chef Wong shared. You came here for a reason. Don't waste your time. Our attention is valuable. While you have your phones out, by the way, if you want all the slides and you want my guide, you can text 44499, hit talk, and then I'll send you everything so you don't have to worry about getting it. You know, when I first was talking about coming here, I was a little worried because I thought Hawaii is a place I have such reverence for. I came here for the first time when I was 19, and I have such reverence for history. I have reverence for people honoring where they've come from. I'm a first-generation Italian. That's important to me. And so I was a little worried when Rainbow Sales and Marketing reached out and said, we want you to come talk about innovation. And I thought, well, do we need to talk about innovation in Hawaii? Can we keep doing what we've always been doing? But I started learning that innovation is something that Hawaii has always been doing. A long time ago, the Janaka pineapple processing machine helped Dole go from processing 15 to 50 pineapples per minute. And that started right here in Hawaii. Today, Ocean Vodka said, how can we utilize what we've got around us? They use deep sea mineral water and they distill sugarcane. It's the only sugarcane distilled vodka in the world. That's an innovation. And it is from context, it's local, it has all the things I was talking about. Even one of the most traditional of Hawaiian things didn't start in Hawaii. Taro's been here for a long time, and it is probably more famous in Hawaii than anywhere else in the world. But it was brought here. And Hawaii copied it from wherever they brought it. We adapted it to Hawaii, and we pasted it. And now we're having poi pancakes. When I was touring around, I went and saw the Queen's Hospital. That was an innovation. That didn't exist on the island. And she realized that they needed to create a place where Hawaiians could go, where Hawaiians could get access to medical care. That's an innovation from here in Hawaii. And one of my favorite innovations is from Iolani Palace, and learning that electricity happened there long before Buckingham Palace, long before the White House. So when I started doing research, I realized Hawaii is exactly the place to talk about innovation, of steeping things in tradition, but then bringing them forward with us. You know, ideas are contagious. the opportunity to do something with what you learned today, what you explore tomorrow, when you go back to your business is yours. And I get it. I get in the space you're in that the challenges are super high, that the stakes are very real for you, and that the competition is getting bolder and bolder. So make today the day that you do something about it. Make today your jumping off point. Make today the day that you don't say Control-Alt-Delete and say, let's throw everything away and start something new. Make today that you don't do copy and pasting and say, well, how do we just do what everyone else is doing? I think Hawaii has a long history of doing things our own way. Today is about copy, adapt, and paste. And I want you in the next 7 days to get curious. I want you to start craving what's next, to adapt quickly, to be able to use the available resources, to partner with the partners that are here for you, and to seize the opportunity. There's an enormous opportunity out there for you to innovate, to connect with new people, to make sure that your businesses continue to stay relevant. And we can seize this enormous opportunity that is waiting for us just outside these doors. I hope you go next door with an open mind, ready to learn, interested in finding out, and knowing that what you're doing here in Hawaii and what you can do with your business to innovate is just around the corner of saying yes and. Have an awesome show, everybody. Thank you. And I'll be over there with you from 2 to 3. So if you want to chat and, I don't know, touch my hair or something, that's been popular this week. You could do that. So thank you so much. Thank you to Rainbow Sales and Marketing for having me out. And thank you to all of you for hanging out with me for the last 45 minutes.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.